What's the longest you've ever gone without food? A day? Maybe two? Now imagine 72 days, trapped in frozen mountains, no supplies, no rescue coming, and the only source of protein is the bodies of your friends lying frozen in the snow. Would you do it? Could you? Throughout history, humans have faced this impossible choice more times than you'd think. And today, we're diving into 6 of the most disturbing cases of survival cannibalism ever documented. Fair warning, this gets dark. But these stories are real, and they reveal something profound about human nature when pushed to the absolute edge. Let's get into it. October 13th, 1972. Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 is carrying 45 people, most of them a rugby team and their families, across the Andes Mountains when it slams into a glacier at over 100 miles per hour. 12 people die instantly. 5 more die from injuries within hours. The survivors, cold, injured, and in shock, search the wreckage for food. They find some chocolate bars, a few bottles of wine, and some snacks. That's it. They ration everything. A cap full of wine, a square of chocolate. They wait for rescue. But rescue doesn't come. By day 10, the food is gone. Completely gone. They're at 12,000 feet in sub-zero temperatures. Their bodies are burning thousands of calories just trying to stay warm. And they're starving. That's when they have the conversation nobody wants to have. Some of the passengers, knowing death was close, made a pact. If I die, use my body to survive. It was an act of love in the most unimaginable circumstances. On day 11, they made the decision. Using broken glass from the plane windows, they began cutting small pieces of flesh from the frozen bodies outside. One survivor later said it tasted similar to beef, but the psychological weight was crushing. Quote, "It didn't feel like food. Every piece was a friend, a teammate, someone we loved." They survived this way for 72 days. When rescuers finally arrived on December 23rd, only 16 of the original 45 passengers were still alive. Here's the thing. This story isn't just about horror. It's about the will to survive. These weren't monsters. They were ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice, and every single one of them carried the weight of it for the rest of their lives. If the Andes disaster shows humanity at its most resilient, the Nazino tragedy shows what happens when survival instinct turns into pure horror. May 1933. Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union is trying to cleanse its cities of undesirables, petty criminals, political prisoners, people caught without proper documents. Over 6,000 of these so-called socially harmful elements are rounded up and dumped on Nazino Island, a desolate strip of land in the freezing Siberian Ob River. No food, no tools, no shelter, just dirt and trees. The guards leave, and within days, hell breaks loose. People started dying immediately, from cold, from disease, from starvation. And then the cannibalism began. But this wasn't survival cannibalism like the Andes. This was predatory. Armed gangs formed and started hunting the weak. They'd kill people specifically to eat them. Children disappeared first. One Soviet official who investigated the island later wrote, "I saw people being cut apart while they were still alive, screaming." Within just 3 weeks, over 4,000 of the 6,000 deportees were dead. The island became known as Cannibal Island. The Soviet government tried to cover it up for decades. It wasn't until the 1980s that documents were declassified revealing the full horror. This wasn't survival. This was what happens when human beings are stripped of every shred of civilization and left to die. It's a nightmare that actually happened. All right, let's jump forward 70 years, to a case so disturbing, it still doesn't feel real. March 2001. Armin Meiwes, a 40-year-old computer technician in Germany, posts an ad online. He's looking for someone willing to be killed and eaten, and someone responds. His name was Bernd Brandes, a 43-year-old engineer from Berlin. The two met online in a chat room dedicated to extreme fetishes, and Brandes wasn't coerced. He volunteered. He wanted this. On March 9th, Brandes traveled to Meiwes' farmhouse. They agreed on the plan. Meiwes would kill him, and they would share a meal first. I'm not going to describe every detail. This is YouTube. But here's what you need to know. They cooked and consumed part of Brandes together before Meiwes killed him. Brandes was a willing participant the entire time. Meiwes then butchered the body, stored it in his freezer, and over the next 10 months, consumed approximately 44 pounds of human flesh. He was eventually caught when he posted another ad looking for a second victim. Police raided his home and found everything: video recordings, the remains, all of it. In court, Meiwes said eating Brandes made him feel like he was becoming part of him. He showed no remorse. He was convicted of murder in 2006 and is currently serving a life sentence. This case shattered every assumption about cannibalism. This wasn't survival. This wasn't insanity. This was consensual. And that somehow makes it even more disturbing. September 8, 1941. Nazi forces surround the Soviet city of Leningrad, now called St. Petersburg, and cut off all supply lines. No food gets in. No one gets out. The siege lasts 872 days, nearly 2.5 years. Over 1 million people died. And as the months dragged on and food disappeared entirely, something unthinkable became widespread: cannibalism. At first, people ate anything: wallpaper paste, leather belts, sawdust mixed with flour. Then they started digging up corpses from mass graves. The city was full of frozen bodies. But then it got worse. People started disappearing. Children, the elderly, anyone weak or alone. The Soviet police formed special units to hunt cannibals. Arrests for cannibalism numbered in the thousands. One survivor's diary described seeing a mother boiling something in a pot. When asked what it was, she said, "You don't want to know." The implication was horrifying. Another account from a police report. A woman was found with the remains of her own child in her apartment. She claimed she found the body already dead. We don't believe her. The scale of suffering in Leningrad is almost incomprehensible. This wasn't isolated incidents. It was systematic, born out of desperation across an entire city. When the siege finally ended in January 1944, survivors were skeletal, traumatized, and many carried secrets they'd never speak aloud. Let's go back even further. To a piece of American history they definitely didn't teach you in elementary school. Winter of 1609. Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement in North America, is starving. The colonists arrived unprepared. They didn't plant enough crops. Relations with local native tribes collapsed, and when winter hit, they were trapped inside their fort with dwindling supplies. Out of 300 colonists, only 60 survived. They called it the starving time. For centuries, rumors circulated that the colonists had resorted to cannibalism, but there was no proof, just whispers in historical records. Then in 2012, archaeologists made a discovery. They unearthed the bones of a 14-year-old girl. Her skull and leg bones showed clear evidence of butchering, hesitation marks from someone who didn't know how to do it, but was desperate enough to try. The lead archaeologist said, "The evidence is absolutely consistent with dismemberment and removal of flesh shortly after death." They'd eaten her. This wasn't a one-time thing either. Other bones at the site showed similar marks. The colonists had dug up graves and consumed the dead. It shatters the romanticized version of early American history. These weren't noble pioneers. They were starving, desperate people doing whatever it took to survive another day. Jamestown recovered, eventually. But that winter? That was America's dark secret. All right, let's end on a slightly different note. Because not all cannibalism stories are pure tragedy. Sometimes there's dark comedy mixed in. Winter, 1874. Alfred Packer is guiding 5 men through the Colorado Rockies looking for gold. They get caught in a snowstorm and run out of food. Weeks later, Packer stumbles out of the wilderness alone. Well-fed. Suspiciously well-fed. When authorities find the campsite months later, They discover the remains of all 5 men, skulls crushed, flesh stripped from bones. Packer's story kept changing, but the evidence was clear. He was arrested, tried, and convicted. He became the only person in American history ever convicted of cannibalism. But here's where it gets wild. At sentencing, the judge, allegedly, said this: "There were only 7 Democrats in Haskell County, and you ate 5 of them. You depraved Republican son of a bitch." Probably apocryphal, but it's too good not to mention. Packer spent years in prison, was paroled, and died in 1907. Today, he's weirdly become a dark folklore hero. The University of Colorado Boulder even named their cafeteria grill after him, the Alfred Packer Restaurant and Grill. The slogan? Have a friend for lunch. Dark humor? Absolutely. But sometimes that's how we cope with the horrifying parts of history. So there you have it. 6 times in history when human beings faced the unthinkable, and did it anyway. Some were acts of survival, some were born from desperation and chaos, and one was, well, consensual nightmare fuel. These stories are uncomfortable, they're disturbing, but they're real. And they show us what happens when civilization falls away and we're left with nothing but the will to survive. If you made it this far, drop a comment and let me know which case disturbed you the most. And if you want more dark history like this, hit subscribe. We're just getting started. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. Stay dark.